If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. Or if you're like me and you've been here before, welcome back. As you can see, clearly it's spring. I'm outside. It's still a little cold, but it's not as cold as it could be. So for today's video, I'm actually going to be making some sleeves. I'm obsessed. So I'm going to be making another bolero or a shrug, depending on how you want to refer to it. But it's going to be in this beautiful Bernat baby sport in pink. And I'm going to be using my Sentro 48-pin knitting machine to complete this project. So it shouldn't take as long as it would normally or traditionally to make. But just to let you guys know what's going to be happening, I'm going to be making 2 tubes for the sleeves. They're each going to have an opening in the tube just so that I can, squeeze my little arms in and have space for my body. And I'm also going to be making a back panel so that it can go across and the sleeves can attach, as well as a slip stitch ribbing for the cuff of the sleeve. So let's get started.
Getting started with the sleeve, as you can see, I just cast it on and now I'm doing my first rows in the round with this hot pink waist yarn. So we're just going to go around for 10 rows and then from there I'll be able to start with the tube of the sleeve. And just so you guys know, I like to use waist yarn just so that we can have those nice clean edges. So as you can see, I threaded that slip stitch onto the first pin, and from here I'll just continue working it in the round until I get to 88 rows, and then we'll be able to move on with the other part of the sleeve with the armpit allowance. Here is what I sketched out with my plan for the sleeve. Like I said, we're working on that 88 row part now, and we're moving over to the armpit allowance, which is going to be 30 rows, and then the back. So 88 stitches. That means I'm going to be casting off and switching over to the panel setting, so that way I can get that opening perfectly open for the armpit. So instead of working in the tube setting, we're going to keep going. And as you can see here, I'm prepping my needle just so that I can properly cast off the 3 stitches that get dropped when you switch from panel to tube. Okay, and actually this part is a little confusing, and seeing it again, I do see I could have done it completely differently. I wanted to move everything over to half, so that way I'm just covering 24 stitches so that I could get working on the back panel. And what I should have done was just go all the way back around until I got to the white pin. What I did was stop where I stopped, and then as you saw, I pulled the yarn all the way over. Of course, I clipped with some allowance on that side, but I definitely should have just done it the other way. And as you can see, that hot pink yarn is there, so that way I can catch those stitches as well once they come off the panel, and I don't lose them and I don't have to worry about them unraveling. So this is actually the back panel, and here, like I said, I reduced it so that it's just 24 pins instead of the 45 that I was doing for the opening. So I've reduced it even farther just so that you have a little bit on the back, but it looks great. Okay, now we've reached the length, the 11 inches for the back panel. So as you can see, I'm just adding on that beige waste yarn again to preserve the edges of this panel, just so that everything looks nice and clean and the sides look beautiful. So here I have the completed pieces. You see the tube for the sleeve. I also have that opening for the armpit as well as the front panel, and of course the extension for the back panel. So what I'm going to do now is actually start slip stitching, just to be able to get rid of that waste yarn. And to slip stitch, I'm using that 5mm hook, just going into every stitch in that first row of pink, between the pink and the beige, so that I can get all of those stitches wrapped up and incorporated. They're all gonna have that slip stitch at the end. And here I have the completed sleeve, of course, with its front panel and its cuff, and the second sleeve that we're actually working on now. So I'm just showing that I'm going to be slip stitching the edges and everything just to clean it up, but I am also ready right now to add on that second sleeve, so that's what I'm going to be slip stitching now and then just finishing it off. Okay, I just wanted you guys to see how I was going to pin it all together, but now we're ready to slip stitch seam everything together. Okay, so for the base of the cuff, I actually did end up reducing here just so that that hole isn't so wide open. So what I do here is I actually slip stitch two together. So as you saw, I just slipped one and two, and here I'm doing the two together. So again, it's one slip stitch, the second slip stitch, and then slip stitch two together. And that's going to give you a nice closing for the cuff, so that way you're not starting with a wide open sleeve, you know. It's a good base to start with. Okay, so once I finished slip stitching the cuff, what I did was, to get started on that ribbing, I just slip stitched to that first stitch, and then I started chaining, and I chained 9. After chaining 9, you skip one, and then you can start slip stitching. Now for this first row, I don't slip stitch into the back loop. I actually slip stitch into that back bump, just so that that first row is straight. And then for the next row, I start slip stitching into the back loop only. And as you can see, I made it back to the base. So what I do here is I do a slip stitch to anchor it, and then I do another slip stitch just to go up to the next row, and that's when I start slip stitching again. So we go back into that first stitch, and we'll slip stitch into the back loop, and then we'll continue slip stitching into the back loop only from here. And of course, to finish it off, we just slip stitch the two edges together, and to make it a much neater finish, of course, I bring everything to the inside. So as you can see, I have my last stitch. Just take the needle and thread right through it so that it lays down nice and flat, and then we go to the other side to sew it in and to hide it. I really wanted to include this just so you guys could see how it looks to remove the waste yarn, and just how beautiful it makes those edges look once it's removed and everything is all done. I'm telling you, it's magic. And just for a little clarification, I'm actually removing the cast on row, so it would be that one where I had skipped one and then chained one. So as you see, once that's removed, it comes off like butter.
So I'm back, and here it is. This is obviously the back and the two front parts, and here are the sleeves and the little ribbing for the sleeves. And like I said, I made little holes for my arms on the inside, so I have a front and a back panel on this Bolero. But let's see what it looks like on. Now, it should be my size. I measured myself before making anything, and as you saw, I did measure it as I was going, so let's see. It's a perfect fit. Oh, how exciting. It's great. The sleeves are perfectly long enough, as you can see. And just to show you guys what the back looks like, it's not that much in the panel, of course. But there's the back. It's super cute, and I love this color. I'm definitely going to be using this a lot more often than you think. I love it, and it actually is pretty warm. I don't have to put my jacket back on to be out here, so I'm very happy I was able to make this. It was super easy, super fast. The yarn, of course, as you know, Bernat baby, is super soft and super easy to work with. I had a great time. Oh, and just to let you know, for the slip stitch ribbing, I used a 5mm hook, even though the yarn asked for a 4mm, just because it's a little bit easier to do the slipping for the ribbon. So I used the 5mm hook instead of the 4. But aside from that, it's great. Everything went well, exactly how I expected. So if you want to make one of these yourself, of course, you can follow the instructions that I gave there. I did make sure to include the little drawing of how I have it, or of how I did it. So I did one sleeve first, and then I did the second sleeve, and on that second sleeve, of course, I made sure to include the back panel with it, just so that I wasn't doing a back panel alone plus 2 sleeves and everything all alone. So this, on this side, it is all one piece, and then this sleeve was attached. So it's actually not as hard to make it as as I thought it would be. But yeah, this is it. And if you enjoyed making today's video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to join me over on my Instagram at chaoticcurl_crafts, where you'll be able to find pictures of this project as well as many of the other projects that I've already done. And since it is April, I do just want to let you guys know the color for this month. I wanted it to be yellow, but I'm having a really hard time finding some yellow yarn, so it's actually going to be pink, and I'm going to be making a dress this month. So join me on my journeys. In the next video, I'll be making the top portion of the dress, and hopefully in a second part to that video, I'll be making the skirt portion of the dress. So thank you for joining me in today's video. I hope to see you in the videos to come, and let's have a happy April and a great spring.